We are going to be covering 20 tips and tricks that I wish I had known before starting Steel Hunters, and without any fancy intro, let's jump right into it, shall we? So tip number 1, use control to dash. In the tutorial, these bars right here are explained to be your jumping things or abilities. That's not the case. I mean, they are, but that's not all you can use them for. You can actually dash with them: left, right, forward, back, in and out of cover, breaking line of sight, closing the distance to your enemy. Use dash, dude, often actually, because it's very strong. Mobility in this game would be considered kind of slow because of the weight that you have to carry with you as you're playing these awesome freaking mechs, but dashing actually makes a huge difference in terms of fighting the enemy and closing the distance and even breaking line of sight. So yeah, dash often, please. Use control. Tip number 2 would be don't fight the enemy if they're level 3 and you are not. There's a reason for that. You can bait the enemy. For example, if you see a bunch of XP lying around, you're level 2 still, and then you're fighting them and you're picking it up in the mid fight, and you're all of a sudden level 3 as well. Boom, 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 and you win. But the reason for this being, it's very similar to something like in League of Legends, right? If you're level 1, the enemy's level 1, and you're fighting each other, and one of you guys get level 2 first, all of a sudden you have a whole ability that you can use against them. They just don't. So it's a huge advantage. The same thing is happening here, where once you turn level 3, or once you hit level 3, you have a whole ability that you can use. For example, Horus, the bear, the frost bear, has frost armor, which just gives you pretty much another HP bar, more or less. Fenris can call in that big plasma ball. There's a lot of abilities out there that give you a massive advantage. So if you see somebody level 3, just know they have a button that you just don't, and that's a massive disadvantage. So go farm up, go hit some drones, get level 3, and then come back and go fight them. Speaking of 3, tip number 3, positioning and comp knowledge. Now this is something that you'll get used to over time. That's something that you'll just have to learn, and it's not necessarily a tip that'll set you up for success right off the rip.
She have line of sight.
But for example, knowing how the Heartbreaker likes to play while you're playing Horus or any sort of frontline mech,
I want to make sure she has line of sight
to be able to navigate the fight and sort of orchestrate how you're going to win particular fights. So for example, if I'm Horus, I don't want to chase the enemy through some small corridor through the mountains. So I need to be considerate and based on where I want to fight, if I want to fight.
I can't go in there, because if I go in there, I get 2v1'd, and she needs better positioning. Yeah, she's going around.
And the same is true with any other composition. For example, if I have a Weaver on my team and I'm playing Fenris, maybe I want to fight in these some sort of small corridors because we have a shield and I can flank and try to get, try to get the drop on the enemy. So just kind of get familiar with the comp, even just basic knowledge and basic points of what the mech that you're playing with likes to do, so you can get the advantage and the combination of skills to be able to, well, get that W. Tip number 4 would be upgrade your mods with the wrench icon on them and the loadout screen to take advantage of very big boosts. So there's a bunch of icons while you're checking out your loadouts, but there's one particular icon that has this wrench icon on it, and if you click on it, you'll notice that there are, well, modification bonuses. And if you're strapped for cash, I would say that go for these first, because these will sort of alter your builds much more than these other icons, because the other ones are statistic bonuses where it's like, 4% damage, 100% bonus thing, or 100 bonus points, whatever. These are the modification. These wrench icons are the modification bonuses that'll make every mech unique, and I think you should prioritize those in terms of, if you're strapped for cash, you don't know what to choose, try to get those first. All right, so tip number 5, I already used Horus as an example, bear boy, or bear girl, I should say, but the same is true for Razor side. Bait your HP if you have the ability to gain a crap ton of shields. Again, this is in particular Horus and also Razor side that can immediately get a bunch of shield. And what I mean by baiting their HP, there are moments in games where I noticed the enemy would sort of just use, especially Razor side, kind of just use the shield because they're just taking a little bit of damage. Don't do that, because people that will play this game know that you have a particular amount of charges. And for Razor Side, sorry, but for Razor Side, you have two. You either have one that boosts you, boosts your shield and boosts your health, or you boost yourself a little bit and you get a bunch of damage outbursts. If for whatever reason I would notice that, oh, this Razor Side already used one of his charges,
They already popped one of his.
he only has one more left, I know the cooldown is pretty long in that, I would look to go engage it. However, if for whatever reason I haven't seen him use that and we're about to fight it out, we have a little bit of HP left and he is sitting on two of those charges, that's how I think you're going to be able to succeed if you bait your HP. And then obviously the same is true for Horus, who can cast Frost Armor. It's just strong. I mean, you'll be able to get in there, pretend like, oh my god, I'm about to die, and then instead there's a whole nother HP bar the enemy needs to, take care of. So bait your HP bar, especially for mechs that can cast instant shield procs. Tip number 6 is flank when you can, or if you can. Flanking is incredibly strong in this game due to the movement being somewhat limited. I always look for flanks, whether we're fighting through a corridor and I don't think anything is going our way. In particular, like if we fight something like Weaver, or it's just kind of a long range fight, I'm always looking for flanks, because usually while you're approaching the flank and approaching the target that you're flanking, you are preparing for that initial fight. So you should have fully loaded gear, fully loaded shield. In some cases maybe you don't, because the fight's been pretty scuffed, but in most cases you want to be fully prepared and just catching the enemy off guard, catching them off guard in the sense of you literally just flanked, and now you're bolting them from the left or bolting them from the right that they just did not expect, and now they need to reposition while they're also taking fire from your ally that's been sitting down that corridor for a while, and he's just heaving bullets at them. Flanking is huge in this game. Is actually something that I very, very enjoy. Not a lot of games allow you to sort of be that tactical in a way. COD really doesn't. I mean, there's some instances where you can flank. Battlefield, I don't know, but there's not a lot of instances where you can actually flank and take that to your advantage, using the map to your advantage and where you're positioned and whatnot. So flank often. Find ways to flank. If you can't, sometimes sometimes your ally is going to get rushed down. It is what it is, but at least trade 1 for 1 while you're flanking. XP is shared, actually. If you didn't know, now you know. So enhancements like these triangles, circles, squares, and whatever, they're not shared. So you can greed out for those and ping them with the middle mouse button, so your ally can pick them up. But XP is actually shared. So all these little boxes right here, if your ally is across the map and you're on the other side of the map and you're picking up XP, perfect example, going back to like tip number 2, where don't fight the enemy unless they're level 3. If you're both level 2 and you guys pick up a bunch of XP, you both be level 3.
Pick that up, please.
It's a similar system where something like Heroes of the Storm had this sort of shared XP across the team. That's the same thing going on here. So XP shared. Don't worry about picking it up or greeting for it. You're not going to overtake your ally in XP. What you can greet for are the enhancements that are on the ground. Again, the triangles, squares, and circles. Tip number 8, when you are channeling these nodes, if you are the one that touched it, you have to stay inside of it until it's 100%. You can help capture it if your ally, for example, touched it first and whatever, but whoever initiated the zone, you have to stay inside of it. If you don't, you break the charge and you have to redo it again. If you didn't initiate it, be proactive. Go farm. Go hit the surrounding drones. Go farm. Go scout. Do something, right? Because your ally, in that case, should be staying in the zone and sort of just waiting for the thing to hit 100%. Other than that, again, be proactive, stay inside of it. That's tip number 8. Tip number 9, melee. Melee, bro. Melee. Even though sometimes it's a little buggy, but I will say melee is huge. It can execute the enemy. It can get that last little oomph that you need, especially if you're running out of ammo. It can make some space for you. It can execute them, like I said, especially if you have low ammo. But be considerate about the time, right? If it's kind of... So what I mean by that, if it's kind of close, right, and you think you can just finish them off while shooting, just finish them off while shooting. Because there is a slight delay in terms of the melee animation actually proccing. Also, sometimes there's not enough, there's not you haven't closed enough distance. Me trying to talk, Jesus. You haven't closed enough distance to the point where you're actually gonna land that melee, and then the animation itself takes a little long. Yeah, I think I have a clip or two showing right now. But yeah, if you can just finish off the enemy, keep shooting them. But if you are intending of sort of like dashing forward and you have some sort of close range, I don't know, shield thing, and now you're gonna go in for the melee, do it. Melee, dude, fucking melee. Have a good time. Keep track of your timers. Tip number 10. I think we're in 10. Yeah, look down there. Look at your HUD, please. Especially if you're about to flank, right? There's timings that you can take under consideration where you can sort of negate fights and or anticipate fights and or sort of navigate the battlefield a little bit better, knowing that my shield is up in 10 seconds, or my ability is up in 30 seconds, I can't do anything yet, or I should, move this way, or anticipate something that might happen over here, or my ally's about to do something stupid, let me not run it down also, let me just pull back, stuff like that. Just look at your timers. This doesn't necessarily pertain to this game alone. Obviously, there's a lot of games that are like, use your cooldowns properly. But in this case also, because we only have like, 2 abilities, so they're huge cooldowns. They're like 30 seconds, sometimes more. So be considerate about your shield timers, which is that little red number above your structure or your HP. And then your ability timers, obviously. Hold on to your tags, dude. Hold on to your dog tags. Tip number 12, I think. 11. As long as you can, just hold on to them. Sometimes you might want to pop them. So these dog tags, right? The more you collect, the rarer the thing gets. So it can go white, green, blue, legendary, which is like orange or whatever. But you want to hold on to them as long as possible in hopes of getting the orange one. When you can pick up the orange one, then press the Z button, right? Which essentially, depending on how many dog tags you have, you'll be able to call in a drop pod. And the drop pod has a bunch of goodies in it. The rarer the dog tag is, meaning the more you have of said dog tag, the rarer the drop is going to be. And there's a high chance that if you wait until you get the orange one, you're going to be able to get the Colossus, which is a massive bonus. As you can see, it's huge. And if you've played the tutorial, you know what I'm talking about, right? Everyone sort of gets to play as the Colossus towards the end of the tutorial. It's it's another mech. By the way that works, let's say you're like half health or a quarter health and you're turning into the Colossus. The Colossus has full health, full everything. You can use the melee, you can use the minigun. I suggest using the minigun or the gun, whatever. But if the Colossus dies, you actually go back to your previous status, being low health. So don't, be careful, because there might be a chance where they actually beat you while you're in Colossus, and then you're like, you have 10 health left and you die again. It's kind of embarrassing. But yeah, hold on to your dog tags. Tip number 13, don't stand under the drop pod as the timer reaches 0. Yeah, you'll die. Tip number 14, do not lone wolf, please. Play with your duo. Trade with your duo. Be the shield to your duo, like literally standing in the line of fire. If your duo is taking a crap ton of damage and you guys are trading efficiently, and just be there.
Brother, where are you?
There's a lot of moments where like my random would just kind of just fuck off somewhere, and I just like, okay, this is not the situation I want to be in. Oftentimes I would take it upon myself to go find him, or ping until he comes to me. But yeah, this is not a game where you can lone wolf it. There's a very little chance where you're going to be able to 1v2 unless you're like super annoying, somehow just constantly running away, maybe. But these games are like 15 minutes long. Play with your random, just have a good time, and try to communicate. Use pings. Use pings. That should be another one. Tip number 15. So reminiscent of World of Tanks and War Thunder, use cover. Okay, I feel like I already mentioned this while you're in that dashing. Tip number 1, but use cover. Cover plays a huge role in keeping you alive. Consider LOSing, line of sight, when you're fighting the enemy. I feel like, I want to say it's kind of obvious, but use cover. Like there's a lot of moments where you're literally hugging a corner while your enemy's hugging a corner. Don't just kind of run at the, I mean, I have footage. I'm showing you right now. Stay behind cover until you figure out what the next move is. Don't just yeet yourself out into the open. That's crazy. Tip number 16: don't fight a weaver that puts up a shield, especially in a choke point. I feel like that's literally what I just mentioned. They can just make cover, by the way, and that cover is not like it's one-sided. So they can shoot through it, they can move through it, where you're not going to be able to shoot through it or move through it. So yeah, it's in particular, it's pertaining a particular mech in this case. Again, that's not something that I wanted to do. Maybe in the future I'll do like specific guides on each mech, but in this case, tip number, what was it, 17? So 16. Don't fight a weaver if he puts up a shield. He's very strong, especially in choke points. Not so much in once it's wide open, where I'll flank you. But other than that, yeah, try not to fight the weaver. Just fall back, find another angle. Tip number 17: when you die and you get rezzed, you need to find a way to heal, which means running around looting repair kits, like killing little drones in hopes of dropping that green box. Don't engage in fights. You're going to be way too vulnerable to be able to win 9 times out of 10. When you get rezzed, right? Let's say you die and your ally falls back and you get rezzed. By pressing the 2 button, by the way, you can shorten that cooldown in rezzing your ally. If you didn't know that, you're not going to be dropped with full health. You're literally coming in with like a quarter or half health. Your job is going to be like scavenging and finding ways to get some health back. So again, as soon as you drop in, you're looking for food and anything, water. You're like trying to survive so you can hopefully help your ally. Speaking of getting res and whatnot, tip number 18: if the fight seems lost, there is no harm in running back and trying to find a safe location. Even if, listen, there's multiple times where I would literally see that my enemy is just dogpiling my ally, and I was just like, okay, there's nothing I can do to be able to help. It's just unfortunate. It's not his fault. Let me just fall back, find a nice little corner. I'm gonna res ya, because again, right, he has to find, like, as soon as I res him, he has to find health, he has to find some just stuff to be able to upgrade himself. Like, there's a lot at play here, how and when and where you're going to be able to res your ally, because not only do they have to like go through this process of sort of bolstering up, the enemy can see where they're coming. Like, when you drop from the sky, the enemy can see that. They will, if they're, you know, being aware of their surroundings, they will see that and most likely run you down. So don't just res because you can res. Try to A, get away from the enemy, B, find a safe location, and preferably C, maybe even have some stuff around for your ally to loot while, you know, he's trying to like get back into the game. But again, there's nothing wrong with falling back and trying to get a second chance at the fight that you may or may not have lost recently. Tip number 19, I guess. I've lost count. Read the buffs and waypoint nodes to take advantage of them, or wait for the enemy waypoint nodes to just run out of time. There's one particular fight that I've recently had where Oris and we got this buff. We had this zone. It was a pretty decent zone. I think it was like reduced 5% damage and critical chance from the enemy. And then I noticed, I was like, wait, this buff that we're about to walk into gives the enemy a lot bigger buff than we have. Like, it's 15% more damage. I positioned myself a certain way, and I took under consideration like that if we go in there, if we fight this, we're gonna take a considerable amount of damage. Like, we're gonna take 10% more because of our 5% reduction. So I was kind of playing safely there, but just take under consideration to read the buffs and waypoint nodes to, again, take them, yeah. Just know your surroundings and what you're getting yourself into, which leads me to tip number 20. Press M. Press M, dude. Press the map button. While you're looking at the map, look for these points, okay? If you use the map, you can actually see what is what you can get in order, right? You can get, let me get this one first, and then we can go here, and then we can go here. If you just use your mech's POV, you can't really make out what is coming up next in terms of distance. I often use the map, like very often. I want to get as much information as possible. There are several fights that we won because I knew what was coming, or I knew I used the sort of the distance to my advantage, and even the map was situationally sort of positioned myself properly based on what the map had to offer, whether that's, you know, channels or buildings or some sort of valley or, you know, mountainscapes, whatever it may be. So press M. It's incredibly useful. Last tip, I would consider myself currently as a Fenris main. I don't know, I really like Fenris right now, whether or not that's the right move. Played a shit ton of other mechs so far. I have over 50 games. I think we're approaching like 60, 70 games now. But Fenris, the ball can actually be controlled using your mouse. So do that. It's strong. You can cast it, and you can make it go around corners, actually. So, and as soon as it makes contact with something, it'll explode. So, before you want it to explode, you kind of want it to run as long as possible because it's doing damage over time in this massive zone. But yeah, as you can see, I bend it like Beckham here, and it fucked this guy up. And that's that's it. Those are gonna be my couple tips. Hopefully that'll get you settled and get you ready. Wow, this is a long video. Okay, bye.